Hey guys, welcome back to Rebuilding in Recovery. My name is Tracy. I am a recovering heroin addict and a therapist, and Rebuilding in Recovery is where I share my recovery stories and tips to help you build a happy, successful life after addiction. I firmly believe that building a life that you genuinely love is the key to long-term recovery. I believe that anybody in recovery can do that. Anybody can find success no matter what your background holds. I am back with a story time for you today. I have gotten some positive feedback about the story times. I feel like people tend to like those a little bit better than my more educational stuff. But no matter if what I'm sharing is educational or a personal story, my goal is always number one, to help guide people to a happy, successful life after addiction. And number two, to help you realize that you are not alone and that you don't need to be ashamed of your past. I spent many, many years in my early recovery incredibly embarrassed of my past, incredibly ashamed, and I don't want anybody else to feel the way that I did. And one of my number one goals on this channel is to normalize being a human being. So today I'm going to be sharing what it is like to go to a maximum security women's prison, just in case that ever happens to you. Side note, I want to let you know that these are my Halloween decorations. This is not my typical home decor. It's like September 10th right now, but we get started early around here. We really like Halloween in this house. Who else has their decorations up already? Let me know in the comments. So as I'm sure you can imagine, there are a lot of reasons why going to prison really sucks. But I'm going to be covering some of the worst parts of the intake process. Now, just to give you a little context, we're going to start at the beginning. Now, my time in prison came towards the end of my time in addiction. I had been incarcerated many times before, but this was my first time in prison. Now, this arrest that I'm going to be sharing with you was actually my last arrest, and this happened in 2013. I had been in county jail for a few months when I received my sentence, and my sentence was to spend a year in the Indiana Department of Corrections. Now, if you are ever sentenced to the Department of Corrections, that is AKA prison. Or if they say that you are going out on the paddy wagon, that means you are going to prison. Now, once they sentence you, they can send you to prison at any time. They give you no warning. And that time can vary anywhere from a day to months. And one of the first things that they do on ship out day is shut down the phone so that you cannot tell anybody what is happening. They are worried that somebody is going to intercept you, Fast and Furious style. Unfortunately, I never got to make the connection that I was meant to make with Paul Walker from the Fast and the Furious. So I didn't have any friends cool enough to crash the prison van and rescue me. Maybe somebody does. But one other girl and I were driven hours upon hours away from my small little town to the middle of nowhere. I had no idea where we were, honestly. I didn't know anything about prison at this time. I did not know where we were going. I thought that maybe they would give us like a handbook and be like, hi, welcome to prison. Here's your itinerary for the day. Here's what you can expect. But nobody did that, and I felt like it was a little bit rude. So we just show up at this prison with no idea what to expect. But I quickly learned that in Indiana, you go to an intake facility for 4 to 6 weeks before you go to your final resting place. And that's funny because being in prison is kind of like being dead, but worse. So the first thing that you do when you get to prison is complete the intake process. And the intake process is one of the worst, most degrading parts of being locked up. In prison, they are very thorough with their intake process and with their searches. And in prison, it's not just you. It is you and a whole other group of people. There were multiple people who were shipped to prison that day from multiple county jails all around the state. So they would conduct their search, their strip search, with you and a whole group of other women, with them and a whole group of guards. You will also find out that in prison, male guards can do whatever they would like. They can come into the bathroom, they can watch you pee, they can do a strip search. So during intake, we were forced to get naked in front of a large group of people. And it's not just getting naked. You lift up your boobies, you turn around, you squat and cough. They look right up there. They check your hair. They check behind your ears. They check all of your tattoos, and they drug test you. After we completed the intake process, we were taken to our dorms, and it basically looked like what you see on TV and in movies. So 16 girls in each room, so you could see everybody in that prison at all times. There was no privacy whatsoever in this prison, and that includes in the bathrooms. There were half walls in between the toilets, and there were no curtains on the showers. That is definitely something that took getting used to. In my county jail, we did actually have a curtain on the shower. We did, however, take a dump right next to somebody's head in their bunk. So By that point, you're really already used to having no privacy, but still, it's one of the more unpleasant things about prison. The showers, though, were actually an improvement from my county jail. In my county jail, you had to press a button to run the water. So you would press the button, it would run for about 15 seconds. Press it again, 15 seconds. Worst shower ever. I'm a shower person, okay? I like my showers. They feel good. I like to just stand under the scalding hot water. You cannot do that in jail. So we did at least have normal showers in prison, although they had no curtains, bad water pressure, and they never got hot. Oh, and male guards could come in and see you at any time. So I'm going to go over a few of the reasons why this 4 to 6 weeks in this intake facility was truly awful. Number one, you are hungry. There's no commissary in intake. If you don't know what commissary is your funds while you are incarcerated. It is how you get everything that you need to survive: food, hygiene, clothes. Without it, you're going to have a bad time. Now, obviously, yes, the prison feeds you, but let me tell you a few things about eating in prison. Number one, you have about 10 minutes to eat your meal. At that point, the guards will force you out whether you are done or not. Number two, there are no seconds. Number three, you get the same amount as everybody, whether you weigh 300 pounds or 10 pounds. That's a bad example because nobody weighs 10 pounds except a baby, and a baby's not going to be in prison. Number three, the food is awful. It looks like a straight up ball of mush. You don't even know what it is half the time, but you know you have to eat it or you're going to starve. And number four, you cannot take any food back to the dorm with you from the chow hall. If you get caught with an apple in your pocket for a bedtime snack, they are confiscating that and they are writing you up. And number 4 or 5, I forget, the portion sizes are atrocious. It does not matter if you clear all 3 trays a day. You are going to bed with your stomach growling if you don't have commissary. Let me give you an example of one of the meals that we had. It was a chef salad, a small portion of iceberg lettuce, 1 hard-boiled egg, and 1 pack of saltine crackers. I hated that meal day. I can't do hard-boiled eggs. They smell like fart. I cannot bring myself to eat something that smells like a fart. I never knew if somebody was eating an egg or farting. So yes, if you don't have commissary, you are going to bed with your stomach growling every single night. Number 2 is the lack of hygiene. Here's the hygiene kits that they give you in prison, minus the razor. That's literally it. That shampoo is so strong that it leaves your hair feeling so rough that you can't even comb through it. The toothpaste does not work. The toothbrush is the size of your finger. It's an atrocious hygiene kit. I mean, thank you, Bob Barker, for creating this for us, but it does not get the job done. Number 3, it is cold. It was the middle of winter. We had to get up every day at about 4:30 in the morning and walk to chow. That was about a half a mile away from our dorm in -5, -10 degree weather. All you have are your very thin jumpsuits and a very thin jacket. It's not an insulated jacket. It's not a winter coat. It's a jacket. And what you have at night, the size of a fleece throw that you get at the dollar store, it's about that size, but it's scratchy, like made of wool. So you are cold all the time. Another one of the worst things was that there was no calling home for about half of our time in that intake facility. For our first few weeks there, we could not use the phone. We didn't have any money to buy stamps and envelopes. So your family, they probably know that you've left county jail. They probably noticed that you didn't make your Wednesday night phone call, or maybe they showed up for a visit and found out that you weren't there, but they don't know where you went. You can't call them and tell them. So you literally have no contact with the outside world for a couple weeks. It was also very hard to get used to living with that number of females. To give you an example of the awkward situations that can cause, I was sitting and talking with one of my bunkies one day, and we were talking about what got us there. And she told me, she said, I stabbed somebody. And I laughed at her. I didn't laugh at her because I thought it was funny that she stabbed somebody. I laughed at her because that was my coping mechanism. It really was unreal to me that I was in prison, that I was sitting next to a girl that stabs people. And the only thing that I could do to process that situation was laugh. So anytime anything ludicrous happened, like when we were standing naked in front of a group of people, or when the prison guards were yelling at us like we're soldiers, or when a girl tells me that she stabbed somebody, the only thing that I can do is laugh. That's the only way that I can handle it. And prison guards don't really like it when you laugh at them, just so you know. It was also very difficult to live in an environment where you can't automatically trust people, or people automatically may want to do you harm. Now, not everybody is like this, but sometimes people are not cool to you just because you have a short sentence. I mean, you definitely have to establish respect for yourself in an environment like that. You can't come across as someone who is going to tolerate being stepped on, because if if you do, then they will. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go punch anybody in the face, but the first time somebody tries anything with you, you have to stand up for yourself. You have to just let them know that you're not the one and you're not going to take it. You're going to call them out on it. So for example, I'm waiting for chow one morning. I'm sitting at an empty table and some lady comes up and she says, "You're in my seat." And I was like, "Girl, I've been sitting here for the past 30 minutes. This table's empty. This ain't your seat." And honestly, that's all it took for that woman to move on. So you don't have to shank anybody. You don't have to do anything crazy, but you do have to let people know that you're not the one. Now, after the 4 to 6 weeks in this intake facility, you have to go through the whole process again. So after being in this facility for 4 to 6 weeks, we get called out that we're being shipped out again. And again, we are strip searched before we leave. We are then handcuffed. We are shackled around the ankles. We are black boxed and we are handcuffed to another person. We are then loaded onto the prison van and driven for hours and hours, not told where we're going. We didn't stop for Wendy's. We didn't stop for bathroom breaks. We stopped when we got to the prison, and then we were loaded into a lobby where we waited for another hours and hours. Now, by the time we got to the prison, we had been going since the morning. We'd not been out of the van. We'd not been out of our handcuffs. We were hungry and we had to pee. Some girls actually peed on the bus, but there was an elderly lady that we were with, and she approached the guards once we got inside, and she said, "I have to go to the bathroom." And they said, "Ma'am, you need to sit down." And she said, "No, listen, we've been on this bus all day long. I really need to use the bathroom right now." And they said, "Ma'am, you need to sit down." So she did. She went back and she sat down and she peed her pants. She peed her pants and she peed all over the floor. And it was one of the saddest things that I've ever seen, honestly. Like, that is just something that is not necessary. Yes, we're in prison. We're receiving our punishment, sure. But you're going to make an old lady pee her pants? Really? That does not seem necessary to me. Trust me, prison is humiliating enough without being forced to pee your pants. So the intake process is pretty rough. The transport process is pretty rough. You're literally treated like a dog in a cage. You're ignored. You're tied up. It's bad. It's bad. And then again, we went into another type of intake dorm at our new prison, which was also a maximum security prison in my case. And again, when we get there, we don't have phone access or commissary access for a few days. So that was very difficult, again, to go without food, without hygiene, without calling home. After that 1 to 2 weeks, you are then taken to your final resting place. And at that point, finally, 2 to 3 months into your prison sentence, you start to form a routine. You start to meet some decent people. You go to work every day. It's just that intake part, that initial couple months, that is really, really hard. Once you have the things that you need, once you go to bed not starving every night, once you can call home when you need to, it's a lot easier to get through your time. So if you're headed to prison anytime soon, just hang in there through that intake process and remember that it is temporary and it will get better. But hopefully you're not. Just a reminder, please hit that subscribe button. You will get notified every time I put a video out. If you hit that bell, it also really, really helps to keep this channel rolling and to help us all recover out loud. I highly encourage everybody to share their story to reduce the stigma surrounding addiction and treatment. So that's all I got for you today. Don't go to prison, and I will see you next Saturday.